Hey everyone, Nomad here. Sorry about that last update. I was telling you about where we were ending up. We ended up at this guy Chet's house. It was described to us as this like secret hostel that's not technically advertised on the Appalachian Trail, but if you stay at certain hostels, they know him and they'll direct you to him. And it worked out. He was located in Lincoln, and he was right near everything pretty much that we needed to do a quick resupply. So we got everything done, and then the next day we just got a ride back to Franconia Notch, and then from there we just started trying to cover as much ground as possible, and that sort of got us to the point where we're at the top of Lafayette, and I was making that last video for you. Fortunately, I ran out of video, recording space on my phone at that time. That's why it sort of cut out at the end. And I say fortunately because I had to basically stop paying attention to making a video, and I looked around and I realized that these like sort of dark storm clouds that were previously being blown away from us started moving towards us when the prevailing winds changed direction. So Knievel and I got up and basically just started running across the rest of Franconia Ridge, trying to outrun these clouds. We can't run faster than clouds, but we got pretty far before it started getting pretty windy and rainy, and at that point we just sort of sat down for a minute, accepted the fact that it was going to be kind of crappy out, and then we just decided to walk as far as we could. So we ended up eventually actually walking out of the path of the rain clouds, but that was after about 23 miles of walking across the Franconia Ridge, and we ended up stopping sometime around like 4 a.m. We were so tired that we just sort of laid out our sleeping mats and our sleeping bags in the middle of the trail and slept for like 3 hours. I was completely exhausted, so the amount of effort that I was able to put in to like putting our food far enough away so that bears wouldn't attack us if they came after the food was basically, I walked like, I don't know, 50 feet away from where we were sleeping, and just put it behind like a big rock, and I hoped for the best. It worked out because nobody got hurt. After that, we just sort of slept for about 3 hours, got back up, and then started walking again. We were planning on doing like 15-20 miles that day, but I think like 6 or 7 miles in, we were just both so exhausted, and our legs were kind of wrecked from running up and down this ridge line that was really, really steep in some parts, that I just sort of, when I talked to Knievel during one of our breaks, I was just like, we should just go to the next hut and see if we can do work for stay and try and get some good food and somewhere to sleep tonight. So we ended up going to Mizpah Hut at the very beginning of the presidential range in the White Mountains, and we lucked out. We got some work for stay. One of the hikers that we keep running into, Fax Machine, also showed up and did work for stay with us, and we ended up having like a really enormous meal, because when you work for stay, you basically get to eat all the leftovers that the guests at the hut don't eat. So there were just like tons of food that we were able to have for free, basically. Well, not for free, but in exchange for doing the dishes. So it was a pretty good deal. After that, we slept, and I think around like 1 a.m., one of the other hikers that we keep running into, his name is Hawk. He just sort of like barreled into the hut, and I guess he got up the following morning and wanted to do some big miles, so I think he did like 20 miles and walked until about 1 a.m. until he got to Mizpah. When we got up in the morning, Hawk basically told us that like he liked that we do big miles, and he wants to get the trail done with because he started down in Georgia about 4.5 months ago, something like that. So he's been with us since Mizpah, and that very first day we tried to do some really big miles. So we did the entire Presidential Range in a day, got down to Pinkham Notch, and then we ended up getting to Pinkham Notch around 11 o'clock, so we just slept in a visitor center that had like a back door that was open, so we kind of snuck in and just laid on the ground because it was warm in there. The next day it was really rainy, so instead of going through the Wildcat Mountains and Mount Moriah and I think it's Rattle River Range area, we went to this place called Hiker's Paradise and just sort of bedded down for the day to recover, because the whites really, the presidentials really took a lot out of us. The day after that, we went and did all those mountains, and the agreement with the hostel owner is that he would drop us off at the trailhead, and then he would pick us up at another trailhead that was near Gorham, which is where the Hiker's Paradise is. But that stretch of trail is 21 miles long, so we were kind of sort of running all day. And eventually we got done. I think it took me like 12 hours, something like that, to do the entire length of trail. It was pretty steep, and I think there was something like 7,000 feet of elevation gain and loss, maybe more than that. But it was crazy because you would just go up straight for like 1,000 feet, and then down 500 feet, and then up 2,000 feet, and then down 1,500 feet, and it would just go on and on and on for a really long time. So by the end of it, we were really beat up, and because it had rained the previous day, Knievel and I kept falling, so I got to smash up both my knees, and a rock fell on my left ankle. So we ended up not really going anywhere the next day, which is today. Just sort of babying and nursing our wounds. But I think we're pretty much set up for finishing in the next 2 weeks. Hawk, the guy that joined up with us, he and I sort of put together a plan on how to do our resupplies every few days for the next 2 weeks, and we're going to try and punch through this next 280 miles or so and get him to the top of Katadhin so he can say he's done. He finished the trail. And then after that I'll flip-flop south and keep going and try and put in some really big mile days to make up for, the delays that we've had in this northern portion. But that's all for now, and talk to you guys later.